Touchdowns and a dominant win over the Detroit Lions. His head coach, Todd Bowles, says he's excited by Darnold's old soul after the win. Carson, I'll start with you. Were you surprised by Sam's success in his debut, just knowing what you know about him, the way he played, and the team that he has surrounded him right now?
I wasn't surprised at all. I started following him his first couple games at SC and all the way up to now. But you know that he's not surprised by the spotlight. He's coming from Los Angeles. He was kind of thrust into things early at his first couple games. I remember him going to University of Washington in Seattle when Washington was a monster that year.
With USC's season on the brink at the time.
On the brink, and he went in there and won, and then just continuously won and won and won. You know, and then to come to New York and start as a rookie on Monday Night Football against a really good opponent and a tough place to play. I really wasn't surprised, and I think that's what Coach Bowles was saying is, you know, he's seen it from day one that this kid is mature, this kid is beyond his years, and he's ready for this.
One of the biggest ways the NFL's changed since just when you came into the league and now is how we treat rookie quarterbacks. So the last rookie first-round pick to not start at least one game his rookie year was Aaron Rodgers a decade ago. You were the #1 overall pick, Heisman Trophy winner. You didn't play at all your rookie season. What's the benefits to sitting, and what benefits, if any, do you see for players being thrust into it like Darnold is immediately?
Well, you know, it's funny that Sam's in the same kind of position where he has Josh McCown, where I had John Kitna when I came in the league, and John Kitna was the best thing for me for all my years in the NFL. He absolutely taught me how to be a pro, how to take care of myself. He taught me all the nuances that a quarterback coach can't teach you. And that's exactly what Sam's got, but Sam's playing. But he's got that with Josh McCown. Josh McCown is the best thing that happened to Sam.
Yeah, I want to stay on the Josh McCown thing, too, because I'm big with Sam Darnold. Like, I like him. I like the attributes. I like the way he was raised. And I think also when you're at a program like USC in Los Angeles, you're not in a fishbowl, so you're more apt to handle. I thought he was more apt to handle New York than Baker coming from Oklahoma. And they're both big programs. But in Norman, it's totally different than being in Los Angeles. But the veteran quarterback, because for me, I've learned the coaches in the NFL, they can be special as far as they are the best. But the veteran players know the league and know football better sometimes than the coaches. Explain that to fans and how important Josh would be to a guy that's starting in that environment and throws that type of interception his first play. What are some of the words that you might get from Kitna or McCown that help comfort a young quarterback?
I'll never forget that when I walked off the field after my first interception and John came over and put his arm around me and said, all that matters is what you do next. It's how you respond to a bad play. It's how you respond. Well, Sam went out and responded the rest of the game. It wasn't the next play or the next series. He continuously responded throughout the game after the worst possible way to start off any individual's career. So, you know, Josh is that same guy. And as you're talking about, you know, coaches are great. Coaches are instrumental in all of our development as players. But it's just like when you're a kid at home and your dad says the same thing over and over and over again, but you hear it different when your uncle says it,
right,
or your cousin says it. It's the same thing with a quarterback. When your coach says it over and over and over again, it becomes monotonous and kind of goes in one ear and out the other. But when it comes from a guy that's playing right there next to you with the jersey on and shoulder pads on, sometimes he can say the same exact thing, but it totally hits you in the right way, and you learn from it and you move on.
The other parallel you can draw between you and Sam Darnold is both of you were brought into, if you will, save a franchise. You know, your team, I think that you guys were 8-8, I think, when you took over after Kitna's first year. Look, Sam Darnold was brought in here to basically do that. It's the reason he's starting from day one. Did you feel that pressure on your back that, hey, everyone's looking at me now as the guy that's going to come in here and turn this organization around?
Without question, every top 10 quarterback or every high first-round pick feels that pressure. And that's automatically assumed upon you when you are taken that high in the draft. Sam, you know, he's in a position where there's not a ton of talent around him. You look here in New York and you got, you know, Eli's got, you know, OBJ, he's got Saquon in the backfield, he's got Shepard also at receiver, he's got Ingram at tight end. You look at Sam's situation, Sam is the perfect guy to be where the Jets are right now. There's not a ton of talent surrounding him. He is the perfect guy because he can make things out of nothing. He did it his entire career at SC. Nobody's open, manipulates the pocket, extends the play, and then finds somebody for 20 yards and finds somebody for 30. He can do that here in New York because he doesn't have that #1 go-to receiver or that dominant guy in the backfield.
All right, let's move on to Le'Veon Bell now. The situation with him and the Steelers continues to get worse. Pittsburgh removed him from the depth chart ahead of their Week 2 matchup against the Chiefs. Carson, you've been in a situation similar to this in your career. What do you make of L. Bell and the Steelers right now, where he's at and where they're at?
Yeah, I'm for the player. I want to see Le'Veon get paid the money that he deserves to get paid. I'm always going to side with the player. There's guys that I understand are going to have a different argument with that, but Le'Veon's done it year after year after year after year. He's consecutively put up big numbers. He wants to be paid like the Todd Gurleys, like the David Johnsons, and the top tier guys in the league. He's earned the right to say, hey, I want to be paid, and I justified the numbers I want and the contract I want with last year and the year before and the year before and the year before.
So you mentioned David Johnson, because David Johnson, I know he was out last year with injury, and that's one of the big reasons, along with your injury later, that season didn't go the way Cardinals fans had hoped. But they're very similar players in that they are excellent running backs, but they are excellent for their position or any position, pass catchers. What types of fits as a quarterback would you see the defense be put in because of David Johnson in the 2016 year when he really had his breakout monster season? And what type of things are you missing when you don't have that player in the backfield?
Yeah, I mean, he's a nightmare as far as mismatches are concerned. There isn't a linebacker that I would walk up to the line of scrimmage and say, okay, Dave's not going to get open against that guy. And I think Roethlisberger's in the same situation. When he gets in his empty sets and he puts Le'Veon on the inside and he's got a Mike middle linebacker or a strong side linebacker one-on-one with Le'Veon, he's going to find a way to get him the ball. So he's an absolute nightmare in the mismatch situations. Down in the red zone, it's an even bigger problem for defenses because you got to worry about him lining up in the backfield. You got to worry about him getting screens out of the backfield and then getting outside as a receiver. Because who are you going to put on him? Are you going to take a corner and leave him over there? Are you going to put a safety on him? Are you going to put a linebacker? There's just so many problems and so many steps that defenses have to take preparing for you to decide how are we going to try to stop him this week.
Now, Carson, like yourself and my relationships with players, I understand the labor. So I understand typically I side with the players. And L. Bell, it's great to have you conversate on them because, yes, you had those holdouts and everything. They're very, very similar. Let me tell you what wasn't similar, though, because I've been fighting for L. Bell to get paid for the last 2 years. But Carson Palmer wasn't suspended. Not once, but twice. All right? That's why David Johnson is able to get the security from the Bidwell family. That's why Stan Kroenke felt like, man, you know something? Jenny, your contract's not up for 2 years. I'm getting ready to give you a bunch of money right now to Todd Gurley. Because those guys haven't been suspended. So when the player puts the pressure on the organization, that because they're not the same players. When you got a guy that is one positive drug test away from being suspended for a long, long time, you have to weigh that. But what Carson did, though, with his teammates, you did know when Carson wasn't going to be there. Because when he said, I ain't going to be there, you ain't have to worry about him showing up. So my biggest problem was the inconsistency with the teammates, Carson. In the mixed messages, telling the offensive line that he was going to be there and then not show up and have them have to address the media and say, hey, he's going to be here Wednesday. That's what I didn't like. You were very, very consistent. Now, you breach our trust in the thing that we hold true, that I'm going to be able to take care of my teammate and my teammate's going to take care of me.
No doubt, but what is ringing in the back of Le'Veon's head as we're talking right now is when his knee went the wrong way at home against the Cincinnati Bengals and he tore that knee in half. That is hanging in the back of his head. He knows he was so close to almost being able to never play again, and he knows he could be potentially so close to not ever being able to play again. That's why he wants the long-term security of a long-term contract.
And that is something, obviously, you know exactly what that's like. The best season you had in Cincinnati, the best season that team had, it was against the Steelers, right? Kimo von Oelhoffen, I don't mean to bring up something bad, but you know, how much did that experience color the way you viewed almost the finances and the negotiation of the NFL moving forward when you saw how quickly it can be taken from you?
Oh, no doubt. I mean, your career can be over in a blink. Your season can be over in a blink. I've lost a season in a blink. I'm sure you have over your years. But at the end of the day, Le'Veon's looking at this situation like, I'm getting closer and closer to that number, that age, number 30, where people start devaluing his, his contract. And he's already been through one serious knee injury. He's one more away from never seeing that guaranteed long-term money. So he's trying to make sure it gets taken care of, hopefully this season.
Yeah, now is the time for him. He is probably as marketable as he would ever be.
All right, Carson, we know you were here with the FedEx Air and Ground Player of the Week award, which we will talk about.